Speaking of more, that's what Josh Heupel is looking to get out of his Tennessee Volunteers in his 4th season behind the wheel. But future success, of course, it starts now with recruiting. And so over the weekend, the Big Orange played host to some big prospects. And here to tell us all about it is Ryan Callahan of Go Vols 24/7. And Ryan, on the subject of big, David Sanders, the #1 offensive tackle in the 2025 class, was on campus over the weekend. Although I think a lot of non-Tennessee fans would prefer to know how Davis Sanders' visit went. Yeah, an unfortunate typo. I'm calling it a typo here on his name card there, of course, going viral for that. And I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, of course, knowing that the S is just right next to the D there on the keyboard. So we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt here, Ryan. But typo or no typo, how was David Sanders' visit to Tennessee this weekend?
Yeah, and interesting you point that out. David Sanders had a post on Instagram on Monday saying, it's kind of making light of that. And that's very much in line with how he handles things. He's very much a pro for anyone who's dealt with him. Really mature kid, good-natured kid. He and his family certainly know how important he is to Tennessee. So I think they were able to sort of brush that off. Hey, someone working in the recruiting office mistyped a name. But at the end of the day, he knows where he stands on Tennessee's board, and the Vols certainly reiterated that over the weekend. It was an important visit for Tennessee simply because it was the last one, but the reality is he's had a few official visits to Tennessee essentially because he's been in Knoxville 4 times now since early April, spending the whole weekend in town, just about all of those visits. And he and his family feel very comfortable there. I think Tennessee has done a really good job in his recruitment. Now it's a matter of can they win out in the end, but I think they are right at the top of his list and have been for a while, if not the team to beat, certainly one of the favorites going into his final visit to Ohio State this weekend. So Tennessee did a great job, overcame that little hiccup, I think, without any issues, and now it's a matter of can they weather the storm at Ohio State this coming weekend and win out this summer.
Yeah, a very small hiccup, I might add, and obviously he was the headliner. Ryan, who were some other notable names that made it out to Rocky Top this weekend?
Yeah, it was a weekend unlike any we've really ever seen before. This summer official visit window has changed things a lot in recent years, but Tennessee had 26 official visitors in town. 6 of those guys were already committed to Tennessee, but for 20 players to be uncommitted targets or players committed to other schools, it was a pretty large weekend, and some big names included 6 5-star prospects, one of those a Tennessee commitment, George McIntyre, but that means 5 5-star targets were on campus, including obviously David Sanders, but some of the 4-stars equally noteworthy. Jaden Perlotti, the Georgia linebacker commitment from Buford High School in the Atlanta area. Someone Tennessee has kind of quietly put itself in position to have a real chance to flip, and they really impressed him this weekend. I think the Vols have quietly put themselves in a position to really have a chance to win that one in the end, but he's still scheduled to visit Georgia as of right now this weekend. If he makes that trip, certainly the Bulldogs, the home state school, they're going to have a chance to sort of swing the momentum back in their direction. But Tennessee, I think, really made a move over the weekend. Charles House, defensive lineman from the Charlotte, North Carolina area, one of Tennessee's top defensive line targets. That looks like a Tennessee-Georgia battle down the stretch. He's looking to make a decision or announce a decision on Saturday. Tennessee had some ground to make up going into that visit this past weekend. Georgia and Alabama looked like the top 2 teams. Now Tennessee back at the top with Georgia after the Vols were the team to beat, I think, for a few months going into his official visits. Also Isaiah Gibson, another potential Tennessee-Georgia battle. We'll see about that, but a 5-star edge rusher USC commitment from Georgia. He was back in Knoxville this past weekend, and Tennessee also had him on campus in late April, and I think has really made a move there of late. We'll see where that one goes throughout the summer, the rest of the summer, and potentially into the season, because this might be more of a long-term play for his final decision. But Georgia and Tennessee look like 2 of the main threats to flip the USC commitment. I think the Vols improved their chances there over the weekend. So that's one to watch, certainly going forward. And then Deshaun Brame, another one that's closing in on a decision, much like Charles House, the 4-star tight end from Kansas. He's been to Tennessee a few times now. This was his 4th trip to Knoxville. And Tennessee, I think, another one they've kind of quietly hung around in that one, even though the crystal ball has pointed to Oregon as the team to beat for months now. And Oregon will get the final visit this weekend. I think Tennessee has kind of positioned itself to have a chance to win that one in the end. He's announcing on June 29, so an important visit for Tennessee, and it seems like they really made a move there. So Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Oregon all have a shot at Deshaun Brame going into that announcement.
Ooh, Tennessee going up against Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon for some of these prospects. Definitely tough competitors, but means you're going after the right guys for sure. Outside of this weekend, I know there's more official visits to come, and then, of course, the rest of the season. So who are some targets, some guys on Tennessee's radar?
Yeah, definitely a few important visits coming up this weekend for Tennessee. We'll start with Lagonza Hayward, Shady Hayward, as a lot of people know him, 4-star safety from Georgia, a guy that Tennessee led for a few months. He's scheduled to be back in Knoxville this weekend, and that's noteworthy because kind of like with Charles House, he's a guy Tennessee led for a few months, and then he started taking official visits, and then it was Georgia, South Carolina, and Florida. They've all kind of made a move. So can Tennessee swing the momentum back in its direction this weekend? I think there's still some optimism. There's a real chance for Tennessee to win that one in the end, but they really need to knock that one out of the park this weekend. Onus Conanbanny, another big-time defensive back target for Tennessee, 4-star corner out of South Carolina, originally from France and the UK. Really interesting player that Tennessee's now battling Florida State and North Carolina for. He was also at LSU this past weekend, so the Tigers still might be a wild card, but Tennessee, I think, led for him going into the official visits. Other teams have made moves. Can they sort of swing the momentum back in their direction for that one? One that's maybe a little bit under the radar nationally because so many people have him pegged for Georgia, but Travis Smith is one of Tennessee's top wide receiver targets out of Atlanta, and Tennessee has given itself a chance there. They're sort of the other main threat to Georgia in that recruitment, and it looks like Tennessee might have a chance there to make a move this weekend with a strong official visit to Knoxville. So that's an important visit coming up for Tennessee for sure, as he remains one of Tennessee's top wide receiver targets. And then Marion Dye, a 4-star defensive line target out of Indiana that's been one of Tennessee's top defensive priorities for quite some time. The Vols have had him on a couple visits before. He really likes Tennessee, but obviously some big competition there with Ohio State and some others still swinging heavily as well. So he's a big priority for Tennessee, a very important visit for him coming up this weekend as Tennessee looks to make a move with one of its top defensive line targets left on the board.
Ryan, you're the best. Thanks so much for being here. I know you and the whole crew at Go Vols 24/7 are hard at work pulling double duty both in Knoxville and in Omaha, so be sure to check out Go Vols 24/7 for all things Tennessee. You can find out more about this past weekend, some upcoming recruiting visits, and like I said, my baseball fans out there, Tennessee 2-0 in Omaha, so head to Go Vols 24/7 for all things college baseball as well.